What's up, my three favorite people? Hope your day is fantastic. Welcome back to the show. We have an absolute heater for you. Today, I sat down with Bryce, who goes by Bryson on social media. He's a creator who makes gaming content specifically for Web3, crypto, all that good stuff. And he also just recently launched his newest startup, and he built his app in a single weekend. And so if you've been interested in launching your own product, growing on social media as a creator, or anything crypto Web3 related, this episode has a ton of information and value for you. So sit back, relax, get your notepad out, let's vibe, and let's get some stuff done. Let's do it. We're going. Bryce, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Excited to come on the show and talk about a lot of dope stuff.
100%, man. And funny little nugget there is that my first ever podcast was called Do Dope Shit. So that kind of is the perfect segue into this. And we're still trying to do that. And you do a ton of different things, man. So when I was researching you for the episode, I got more and more excited because you're in so many of the different verticals that I'm interested in. But How would you describe all the things that you do? Could you give me like the quick rundown of if you were in an elevator, explain to someone what you do?
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I feel like, and it's my favorite James Bond quote, it's the idea of like being a kite dancing in a hurricane, because you're just all over the place 24/7, which has kind of been a benefit. And I would say, for lack of a better term, like not a benefit at the same time. But I would say that I'm a content creator. I'm a full-time Twitch streamer. I make video gaming content in the niche of Web3 gaming, but I've had this entrepreneurial itch my entire life. Former software engineer who made that stab into Twitch streaming and was able to go full time. And now I am expanding and getting back into building dope projects, and that being Creator Cookbook.
Sweet, man. We're going to talk about that. But I also want to talk a lot about Web3 because I'm deep in that world too. The two like major points of this whole show is Web3 and like entrepreneurship powered by AI. And those things are really intersecting in a very major way. Huge. So I think the first place I'd love to start with this is that you're building something, because you're building multiple startups. So let's start with the one that you're building in Web3. Why did you decide to build it? What is it? Give me all the details there.
So about a year ago, this time last year, actually, I was going through my taxes and trying to figure out everything that I did in crypto, because there's multiple different types of tax codes for various things. Like if you receive airdrop money, that's categorized different than if you received money from just doing a simple trade and making some sort of capital gains. And that's also a little bit different than if someone paid you like some sort of 1099 money for doing something and getting paid out on chain. And I realized if you add all the different ways that you make money, but then all the different ways that you spend money on chain, there was no platform like a Mint or a Rocket Money or any place that just simplified things. How much you spend in crypto, tracking all of your transactions, and giving you like the simplicity of being able to just label them. And this time last year, I was like, all right, it's time to like try to build something. And I think this is the first time I had the entrepreneurial kick to be like, I'm willing to just kind of bootstrap something without trying to get any VC money. And I'm going to segue a little bit here because I think it'll like give a little bit of context. But when I first entered the Web3 gaming space, it was during COVID in 2021. And I blew up pretty insane in the Twitch and gaming content streaming category at the time. Web3 gaming, Play to Earn, Axie Infinity, all of those games were really big. I blew up. I was like one of the main catalysts behind the content growth. And at the time I was like, okay, well, I see these people creating guilds, and like guilds were very big where you could farm video game assets. So you buy the assets, you lend them out to other players, they could farm them and make money, and you take a little bit of the profit as well. It's almost like as if you bought an Airbnb out somebody to stay in it and you made a little bit of revenue as a byproduct of them staying there. Needless to say, it ended up being like a horrible idea, and it ended up becoming like this Ponzi that went under. But before it did, I raised about $4 million to build my own guild called Loot Squad. I wanted to compete in that space. I thought that Web3 gaming assets were the future of everything, and you'd be able to lend out multiple games and there'd be some big titles. About a year after raising, I realized that this industry was going pretty much nowhere in terms of like the play to earn model. So we ended up returning funds to the investors. Very stressful time. And what I realized throughout that entire process was like, there's a world where you are going to be able to build companies and build things without having to go out and get investor money. And you don't always need to go after building the billion-dollar business overnight to be able to make it. But sometimes having that stress-free life allows you to have more flexibility over what you are building. So when Wolfstack, which is the name of the, I would say the crypto tax tracking and transaction tracking software. Last year, I was like, hey, I'm just going to put 10 or 15K to the side and I'm going to solo pay a dev to start deving this thing and try to just get it to an MVP state where we can launch it with a simple Stripe and try to make money. Like, you know how it is. You follow like anybody like, Mark Louvrin or Levels.io, and you see these guys where they're like launching their startups overnight and like scaling to 10K monthly recurring revenue. I kind of had the same vision. We're still building it, don't get me wrong, but the whole idea of what it was going to be initially, where it was like, okay, we're just building this tax tracking software in Web3, has just become, how do we just build the best tracking software possible for anyone doing crypto transactions on chain and charge an amount of money that isn't going to break the bank for them?
Yeah, I think there's so much that's still undecided in terms of how everything's going to be structured. I think that we're getting more and more clarity by the day in terms of how things are going to play, but I don't think people are aware of how relevant Web3 is going to be in the very, very near future. Like, it's so funny how most people that invest in Web3, and I love talking about this because I would consider myself a fairly crypto nerd. And so I love talking to everybody who is relatively even heard of crypto to see where their opinions are and what it all means. And right now they view it purely as gambling, I would say, the average person. Because when I say like, oh, do you own crypto? I'd say more and more people are saying yes. But then when I ask them why or try to even explain what the project does, they rarely understand. And I'm like, it's insane to me that you are like so strong and passionate about something that you really don't understand. And so based on that, like, what is your, like, why do you have so much conviction in Web3? Like, what experiences have you had that brought you to a place where you're like, I know you said the gaming thing, but building a whole business in it is a massive thing. So like, how did you see that this could be something that like we use every day?
Well, it started off just being little things, right? So, I'm just to go back to gaming for just a brief second. I'm big into Counter-Strike, and I always understood the value of like, okay, you own skins in a game and being able to buy, sell, and trade those skins would be really cool. And Counter-Strike was like the first foray I got into that. You play games like Fortnite or Call of Duty, you buy skins every year. Those skins, every time their new game comes out, you can't buy, sell, or trade them. And in Fortnite, you just buy a whole bunch of them and you can't do anything with them outside of play with them. So you're spending thousands of dollars and you never get to benefit from the upside of owning those assets in game. And as I started doing more things in real life, I just realized like there are some similar issues that just reflect in the banking system and the financial system that just don't make sense. Like, you go to an ATM and you can only pull out $400 or $500 at a time. Why is it I can have 20, 30K in the bank, but you're limiting the amount of money I can take out? Or if you want to send an overseas wire transfer, you're getting called by your bank and they're asking you questions as if you're going through an interrogation. And I'm like, why is it costing me $50 to send a 5K wire when that's money I earn, So I got to the point where I was like, there are so many things that are fundamentally wrong with the way that we send money in the world. And the only reason why we've continued to do things the way that we do them is because we've gotten to the point where we've believed that this is just the way things are. Yeah, like this is how it's done. And to me, that just never sat right with me.
Bryce, I literally had nearly verbatim the exact same conversation with my girlfriend literally yesterday. Because I was like, she's like, why do you always obsess over this stuff? And I said, think about it. Like, think about how many things you complain about in your day-to-day life that we just do it because that's how it's done. And even little advancements, like let's use the example of Stripe. She's a developer. So she was like, before Stripe, this stuff used to be a way bigger pain. And I was like, but Stripe still sucks.
Yes, and it's not amazing at all.
No, it's just better than shit, which is absolutely insane because I think a lot of people are about to get shocked and there will be a lot of pain in the short term as we transition to this, but it's so much more than gambling. When you look behind what they're trying to achieve here and the different ways in which they're trying to basically build a new way to approach payments, how we interact with each other, basically like we say Web3, but it genuinely is like a new version of the internet. And I think we got so accustomed to how Web2 worked that we couldn't possibly visualize the fact that it could be done completely differently.
You know what's interesting?
Go ahead.
I have the theory that if someone made a Web3 version of Stripe where simply you allow people to pay with a credit card and it paid out to whatever crypto wallet you wanted across any type of blockchain you were on without having the overarching guardrails of KYC, I think like that's the future of decentralized company, because I'm not a huge fan of Stripe either. Like, I feel like it is not great at all. And for a lot of non-US participants, they can't even use it in a lot of places around the world.
Really?
Like, they literally get like stifled from it.
Yeah, there's so much power there. And so we've shipped a few software products with my agency over the past 6 months. And so I've been dealing with Stripe a lot more from like the vendor side. And Man, it's insane how broken the banking system is. So we deal with a lot of disputes because we sell a software that like objectively I could see why we get declined sometimes because it does seem kind of sketchy, but like
Yeah.
we'll show it's completely above board, completely legal, but we'll show the banks that it was a truthful charge, and we'll still lose these disputes all the time. And I'm like, this is a fundamentally broken system. If I can prove that this person did do all the things, they agreed to our terms of service, they purchased the product, and then on a whim, they can just be like, oh no, we don't want to pay anymore. Like that's
Yeah.
fundamentally broken. Whereas things like a smart contract, like that can remove that from being a potential reality. Like there's so many different things that are going to fundamentally change. And so if you're a developer listening to this, I was saying this to my girlfriend's little brother because he's struggling to get a dev job because
Yeah.
everything's changing so much. I was like, go learn to develop in Web3, man.
100%.
I think that's the only place where you're going to be able to have, for at least the next few years, be in high demand. And a lot of times, like, I'd love to hear your opinion on this too, especially because you said you were a developer, correct?
Yeah.
So,
Pre-COVID for sure.
okay. So I grew up, so my marketing background, like I got a YouTube plaque back there because I grew my YouTube channel and I grew my agency, and primarily helped grow software companies. And so I always wanted to start a software company, but it was so expensive because you guys were so much and you guys got like so entitled because,
Oh my goodness, it got bad.
dude, you guys were such dicks. Like, I don't even know how else to say it. You guys thought you were like the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I would be trying to explain. I'm like, well, when everyone can build this stuff, like marketing is going to be really important. And people were very rude to me and like kind of like, oh, whatever, you're just the marketing guy. You're just
Yeah.
the marketing guy. And now the world is going to the marketing guys. And so I think it's really important to stay on the forefront of technology and also not get too entitled. It's really funny because not funny. I hope no one gets hurt by this, but like engineers are in a very hard spot when they were previously killing it.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Creators are about to be in the exact same place. Like two of the most biggest winners in the last technological evolution of the internet and social media are now about to lose in a very major way. And it's
100%.
going to create a massive, massive impact. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like that whole spiel that I just dropped.
Yeah, it's funny because so like both of the two archetypes that you just talked about were like, I mean, those have been my archetypes. How I've made money probably the last like 8 years of my life.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, 2021, I was a full stack developer. But my background, actually, I graduated from college with a political science degree. I was going to go
Oh.
the law school route. And I realized, and lawyers also got destroyed. There's still some that make a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but they got destroyed. And I kind of saw the foreshadowing of that. And I was like, instead of going another like 60 to 100K in debt, I'm just going to get a job in IT sales and like just try to learn as much as I can about tech. And that ended up resulting in me parlaying that into a role for the federal government as a contractor.
Dang.
In the DC metro area. I was working on a cloud computing team. And this was like pre me coding. This was probably like 2018, 2019.
Wow.
Probably 2018. And there was a guy who came in. He ran a completely different contracting firm than the one I was on. He was like, hey, learn cloud computing, learn how to code, and you will be untouchable because right now you're not untouchable. And I took that and I spent 6 months just head down after work, like 6 hours every night learning how to code and got like a 100K job. Like
Let's go.
as soon as I got to like that 7-month mark. And it was great. Like coding, I knew everything I needed to do. I could build shit. The money was great. And then I just a stroke of luck, COVID hits. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gaming on the side because now I'm coding at home. I don't have to commute to DC every single day from Virginia. And what ended up being like a blessing in disguise, it led to this like opening and this expansion of Web3 gaming. And that replaced my software engineering salary. Once it got to that point, I was like, all right, I'm full-time creator. And I've been full-time creator for like 4 years, moved down to Miami. As I was watching kind of the Web3 gaming space unravel, and I still love it. I still do a lot of work there. But I realized I was like, I'm tired of running on this hamster wheel of I only make money based on brand deals for the most part. Because if you're not like to a point where you're at like millions and millions and millions of followers, you don't have enough people spending money to actually be able to make like a full-time career. So I'm making enough from brand deals to be able to afford it because of course Web3 is the safe haven. I always tell people this. But what I realized was like, I'm not future-proof. I was like, I do good stuff, but I'm not future-proof. And the people who are future-proof are the people who are building things. And to your point, maybe 6-7 years ago, you couldn't just be a non-technical person and be like, I'm just going to go build something. The
No
prices
way.
were exponential.
Crazy.
Like, just getting someone to even give you like a rough estimate of like an MVP, you're spending 30, 40, 50K. Now
Easily.
I see people with MVP creative studios that'll do like an MVP for 5K in 2 weeks, which is just mind blowing. But when I realized this was probably like late part of last year. I was like, all right, I know I want to expand beyond just making gaming content. I want to actually like build something that will like make me last a lot longer as a creator and do something that I'm long-term passionate about. I don't want to play video games forever.
Mm.
And that's what resulted in me going the Creator Cookbook route. It was just like, how do I leverage my skills as a creator, knowing that I know how to make content and market myself and build and use those skills in a way that allows me to create some sort of significant value for other people that is evergreen, meaning it could be around for a very long time. It will allow me to put some sort of software behind it to be able to make some sort of regular recurring revenue, and also gives me space to expand in a niche that will at least be a higher RPM niche than gaming. And I think that finding the intersection of the three was how I came up with this whole idea for Creator Cookbook, uncovering the secret ingredients as to how your favorite creator became successful, how they went viral, and how they make money. But 99% of the world does not realize that engineering, traditional content creating, doing fields and working in fields where you're just pushing paper, they are all royally fucked. And I 100% believe that.
Dude, I cannot stress that enough. How everything that Bryce just said is undeniable facts. I was very lucky, blessed, whatever word it may be, that I was always very ADHD like in terms of my approach to different business endeavors, because I just saw how quickly they were moving, and I can look at it. The rate of change is only going to pick up. It's not going to slow down. And so that's why what you just did is now going to become a fundamental necessity if you want to be comfortable over this transitionary period of 5 or 10 years. If you're not constantly learning a new skill, like every few months, you are fucked. Like you are literally fucked, because when there's someone like me or like Bryce here who can basically, as soon as these software tools become like really good, which is probably only 2 or 3 months away, you and I will be able to do everything ourselves.
We can build anything.
Yes.
I was chatting with my girlfriend the other day. I was like, why don't we just build our own app studio using AI? And every single app we use on our phone, let's build a better version of it. We're both creators and find better ways to market it. I'm like, there's a stretching app called Bin that has 10 million downloads and probably makes north of $1 million MMR every single month.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, guess what? We can build a better stretching app. You could build a Duolingo competitor. And not everything has to be the $1 million idea, but think about it. If you made 20K a month off of apps that you owned and saved yourself some time to where you never have to worry about, oh my God, will AI replace what I currently make? You're set.
I think that's the meta right now. And that's what I'm almost done with. We're launching 3 apps in the next 2 weeks, and they've been like a year and a half in the development because of just things I didn't know. So I'm so excited to get these things launched. You have no idea. And I think that's the meta, is take on a super niche problem that you've learned just from doing shit, where you've seen this is a clear and obvious problem that I know some people would pay for. Maybe not a shitload, but some, because that can open you up to zoom out and take on bigger things. Because our next thing that I'm trying to take on, man, is I think that first it's going to be these little niche problems, because then it's going to give people like me and you enough financial comfort where we can step back and then take on the big guys.
100%.
Because now these massive fuckers, like let's say like Airbnb, Uber, whatever, their moat was the cost of entry, the barriers 100%. To entry. Those are now a con. Those are now a fundamental issue, because let's say you and I want to go take on Airbnb tomorrow. We can try things like crazy, because I'll be like, hey, Bryce, you want to do this? You're like, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Whereas to them, they got to ask their investors. They got to ask all these people. They got to get approved to then actually make this change, where we could do that and run away with the market share. So it's really exciting if you're a builder. If you're not a builder, you better become one. Otherwise, I don't know what people are going to do, man.
I told my sister this as well. I sent her Lovable. I was like, because she was trying to learn this UX and UI like track. And I was like, no, you don't need to learn that at this point. I was like, you really want to make money? Use Lovable and go out and try and find people that will allow you to build their websites, businesses, small businesses, companies. Yeah. Like, you don't need to learn Figma anymore. You don't need to learn any of these platforms. Just use what is at your disposal, because AI is going to be your best friend. But like, I want to get your thoughts on this. 20 years from now, seeing that we live in a world that is like completely predominantly like owned by builders, where do you see opportunities in a world where there are so many people who not only lack skills, but they also lack the willingness and the mindset to be able to step out and say, I'm going to just go build something? Like, for me, if I had to like downsize my lifestyle, like go back and get a different type of job, I have no problem humbling myself to do so. But for a lot of people, there's no, oh my gosh, I have to build this thing. I don't have a consistent salary coming in. And I know that scares the shit out of so many people.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that have built their entire personality, ego, status off of their work, that in the next 6 to 12 months, a lot of them, and And the crazy stuff is that a lot of it, the white collar workers that were making the most amount of money are going to be the most impacted by this change.
Mm,
And so I think the trickle down of that fundamentally is going to be crazy. I think future long term, it's going to be great for everybody. I think we're going to reach a state where money doesn't exist in the way that we know it now. I think universal basic income will become a necessity. And I think builders like you and I that want to provide more value to the market will probably just get more of whatever we decide our currency is. But over the short term, like I think about my dad's friends who a lot of them were executives at these companies, and that was their whole personality. And so I think a lot of it's going to be pretty insane, not just from how we live and conduct our lives professionally, but
yeah.
personally. How do people see themselves when their whole value system, especially for men, have been
Oh
built off
man.
of I do this work, I provide this? When that's just shut off, what are people going to do? You and I are lucky because obviously we had this itch and we scratched it. But I was always seen as the weirdo for starting
Yeah.
businesses and trying different things. Like that was the weirdo. And I had to fight a lot of pressure from the conventional education system saying that's stupid, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. But I saw that this was an inevitability. And so I don't know. I don't honestly would throw that back at you. Like if you are someone who is like in an executive role and say you get fired, like what is the path towards what do I do next? Because I think there's gonna be a lot of panic.
So if I like at the very root, I think that you need to have at least like you need to have enough money saved up to where you can last for 3 to 4 months. Cause I've kind of
For
like
sure.
figured out that like if you have 3 to 4 months saved up of like, okay, I know I can afford to live for 3 to 4 months, that gives you enough time to like figure out how to make some sort of recurring revenue.
Mhm.
But I do think that a lot of people are just going to be out of Dodge and they're going to have to try to pick up bit jobs. Like a lot of people will become freelancers that are just doing things on the side.
Yes.
And there will be a path and a flight to any roles that allow them to be in person. Because I think a lot of remote stuff is going to just be overtaken by the super high quality individuals. But I think a lot of companies are going to move from salaried employees to more 1099 stuff in general because it's just
100%.
way better from both perspectives. But also as like, if you're someone who's a hard charger like us, I mean, I could go consult 2 or 3 1099 companies for marketing and strategy for like content and organic marketing. And I plan on doing that with Creator Cookbook. Like, I don't think you have to do one thing or
One
the
thing.
other. I think that whatever you feel like aligns with what you're building creates opportunities for you to grow. But to the point of having to basically get ridiculed for being an entrepreneur, man, I remember the days in high school, me and my cousin were like, we're going to start a t-shirt brand because we grew up like trying to be entrepreneurs and we fell in love with like Johnny Cupcakes t-shirt brand. So we like started a t-shirt brand that failed, and then going to college and starting at the time when I was in college. And this is a funny coding story. When I was in college, I got accepted into this accelerator with one of my best friends. He ran a sneaker company super successfully. And at the time, we were trying to build a verification system to verify sneakers and clothing. We were like
Sweet.
StockX, pre-StockX, but we didn't know how to raise money and we didn't know how to code. So it failed miserably. And then it sucked seeing like StockX and all these other people do it. But I'm like, even stuff like that, stuff that I couldn't build back then, I'm like, now with AI, I can do it
You can.
you can do it in half a day. Like you can have that entire flow and that entire setup. And it does just come down to, okay, who's the best marketer? Who's the best storyteller? Who's the best community builder? Because a lot of what the future of businesses look like, there is no technical mode anymore. It's all community and likableness or likability. You know, at the end of the day, that's what our businesses are going to be predicated off of. How open can you be? How often can you ship? How consistently can you chat with customers? So, I mean, I want to see people, I like to believe that the world will continue to evolve with the changing pace of AI. But I also think that it also creates a world where one of my goals, if I get to a point where I'm making enough recurring revenue, I want to start some traditional businesses. I think about the idea of creating an HVAC company because good luck with AI trying to solve all the problems of HVAC. But instead of making it like, oh, you go out and you get the smelly looking contractor to do HVAC, like I would want to create it in a way that's like, you go back and get like the 1950s, 1960s, like hot boys and the full jumpsuits, and you have like the nice branding of your company and they pull up and it looks so clean and professional, like basically putting a spin on the entire industry of what people look at when they think of like a traditional industry like HVAC or plumbing. Like make it look cool. Make it look like when those guys pull up in like their van or truck, it's like, oh, we know this company's going to come save the day. Yeah. Like everything is storytelling. And I think that AI creates a world where storytelling can create the next generation of what businesses are really supposed to look like, because you don't have to worry about the little things anymore. Like, oh, can I afford the person to make the landing page. Like
Hmm.
even though she's great, the person that did the Wolfstag landing page and the whole like UI build out, it was like 10K. This was
Yeah.
like pre-AI, like a year and a half ago, before I realized Lovable was a thing. I'm like, that's an expense I no longer have to incur building anything.
Yeah, and it's, man, you dropped so many things there, so I want to try to weave that all together. The first one was, I love the approach of modernizing a tried and true person-based business. And then you gave the HVAC example. I actually have friends that run an HVAC company.
Yeah.
It's called Guys with Gas, I think it's called. I literally gave them the exact same advice. There is such a massive opportunity if you know someone who runs a business like that, and
Yeah.
you're looking at like, where do I start my business? Your business could be going to those businesses and modernizing them in terms of their systems, their brand, the stories that they tell. Because these guys did this with window cleaning, and they took a very similar approach to what you're describing, and they dominated the market because they're the only one that people know. Right? Because if they see them in their face, they share it. It becomes a no-brainer. Like I'll give another free idea for a business if you want. Like
Put me
I
on
try
some
to get
game.
my buddy to start a dog poo cleaning business, because I was like, it would be such a flex for if you had someone clean your dog poo in your backyard. Like people would love to brag about that. And I said, every time that you go, leave a little baggie with treats with a little poop emoji on it, so that when people see that, they're instantly gonna be like, what the hell's the poop emoji thing? Why are you
Yeah.
feeding it to your dog? And then you say, oh, that's actually, we have a guy who comes and cleans our house. That would spread like crazy. There's so many businesses like this that are boring in nature, but with a
Yeah.
modernized approach, better storytelling, you can crush them.
That's
But I
a
think one of the
great
biggest
idea.
Dude, that would fly. That would absolutely fly. And you could literally even franchise that too. You could make that so big. You could make software to make managing that really easy, the fastest route and all that stuff. You could blow that up. But everybody listening to this, and it's lucky because like you and I are both idea guys, so like this time in history was made for us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that are idea people that never move past idea ever. Right? I'm always someone who's looked very dumb in my life many times because I've shipped things
Yeah.
and failed and learned and moved. There's a lot of people who have been hiding behind ideas for so long that they listen to you and I talk about this, and they assume that we're being hyperbolic. They assume that we're bullshitting. They assume that there's a lot more to it than what we're describing. So if you had a friend, I'll give how I would solve this after, but I want to ask you first. If you had a friend sitting down who is that guy, is that girl, who always talks about they want to do X, they want to do Z, but they've never ever started it because they've never made that first dollar online or like pushed that first post live. How do you break through that resistance? Because I think when the tools can do everything that we're fighting is internal programming.
Yeah. So it's tough. I would say the first thing I always tell people when they're trying to figure out like what they want to do, like whether it's creating content, starting a business, their passion in life, I try to like, I take a little like a page out of the Ikigai book, or like where you find kind of like it's a triangle and there's three things: what you're good at, what you're interested in, and what makes money. But I think it goes beyond that, because like you can have all of that and still ended up falling flat on your face. So I try to tell people all the time, think about the apps and the tools and the things that you use every day, or the things that you feel like are integral to your life. And when you find that one thing that's super integral, think about when you're using it, the things that you would like it to have. I try to think about apps all the time just because apps are like kind of like in my fulcrum. But I oftentimes think about the human psychology behind what makes someone want to do something is you are your best playbook for that. So if I'm looking to start something new or figure out, like when I was trying to figure out Creator Cookbook, the idea came to me because I would always think about like, man, I'm always searching up how creators became famous and how they like grew, and like what strategies and steps do they take to growth hack and go viral and all these things. And I got down this rabbit hole to the point of realizing I actually really think it's interesting. The concept of how people go viral and make money, even if I struggle in my own cases at times trying to get to where I want to get, seeing how people do it and using them as like a resource has been a very important piece of like my journey as a content creator. So what I started doing was just realizing like, why don't I just become the guy who tries to interview these types of people and turn it into an information as a service resource? And then I stumbled across like other people who were just creating businesses. You know how it is on X. Like you see the random communities, you run into Pat Walls, you run into all these different guys, and you're like, wow, people are already doing this. And all I have to do is just take their playbook and start doing it. It's like, just post about the thing, talk about the thing, talk about how difficult it is, every little piece of why you've struggled running into this thing or solving this thing. And then you look up and you're like, well, I might not be making any money yet, but there's something here that can make me some money. So my biggest advice is always start with something that you currently use or something that's very integral to your life or your process, because you're going to have the most experience and knowledge on like what does work with it and what doesn't. Like if I wanted to go right now and start like a car dealership business, I wouldn't even know where to start. Or like a Carvana competitor. I have no clue where to start because I mean, although I love cars, I'm not like big into the car space to the point where I'm like, oh man, here are the issues at car auctions versus like lenders and loans and all this stuff. So it's like I would stay away from that. But if we're talking about like apps, if we're talking about productivity, things that like are in my wheelhouse as a content creator, I'm like, there's a market for it. There's not a lot of people in it. I love talking to people. Okay, I'm starting to get into a flow of where this could be a business. And everybody has to have a business model. Don't just start doing content and then think about the business model later, because what ends up happening is you ended up making content for the wrong audience. And I learned that from doing gaming content. I went from, making Counter-Strike content to doing variety games, doing Web3 games. And like, yes, it pays the bills, but it's never going to probably get to a point where I'm like, okay, I can solely retire off of this thing, because I don't really have an idea of what that archetype looks like long-term versus like, is there a guy out there who's just trying to figure out how do I just make money creating content, or a business that's out there like, how do I scale my business on TikTok? Okay, maybe I can provide resources for them that they would pay for, regardless of if I have tens of millions of followers or just a couple 100,000. So I think that having an idea of what a business model looks like is just as important as figuring out the purpose of why the business model exists.
I think that's the biggest gap in the creator economy period right now, is the one you're trying to solve with your startup, is that basically you can't just be a creator and expect to make money anymore. Like that whole dream of, and they say this whole thing about how kids all want to be YouTubers. It's like, well, they better change that, because like they're going to have to be YouTube business owners, because just being a straight up YouTuber, that model is going to die, especially when it's this entertainment based content, where if you are just a pure media entity, to get the numbers to make enough money, it almost has to be entertainment centric. Even if there's a little bit more of an educational spin, it has to reach a wide enough audience where it's somewhat entertainment focused. And so that becomes really, really hard to do when AI video gets there. And that's probably 6 to 12 months away tops. And so then when that happens, I think it comes down to what you said before of community. And so you know the problems that you've dealt with like you do. That becomes everyone's massive advantage, is what unique experiences do you have? And so I said earlier, if you're a big idea person that's never moved, listen to everything that Bryce just said. And then as soon as you find one opportunity that fits that bill, go do it right now, because you want to fail as fast as possible. Because a lot of times, especially because I used to make content about how to grow on social, and there's a lot of people who'd be like, oh, don't do that, do this. And I'd go look at their page and they've never posted. And so I was like, you're literally just like, they call it armchair coach or whatever. Like, you can think you understand something in theory, but you learn so much from failing. And I owe almost all of my business success to prior failures, because each one comes with a lesson. And with how quickly you can get up live and validate, that to me, that just screams learning, right? And if you aren't learning really fast, you're going to get left behind. So whatever it is, if it's something in your existing business or your job that you work with that you're like, oh, this doesn't feel right, I would do it like this, just go try. Like, how long did it take to build your latest startup?
Man, it was Creator Cookbook took me a day. Like, it was
crazy.
From me figuring out that I could just do it in Lovable and slowly just working through like all the crevices of like little things. Like, day one was just, how do I get a really cool landing page? Day two was someone's botting my landing page and botting my newsletter. Like, how do I add Google authentication? Day three was, how do I add a backend so I could post all of these case studies? Day four is like, how do I now add the formatting for the case studies and think about what other things can be provided in the business model to make it like super valuable? And then day five was like, okay, we have our first interview done. I need an editor. I need to break this down so the editor isn't going to charge me $500 a video, because I don't want to spend $500 on a podcast. I need to figure out the perfect length for short form, because I got to a point where I realized I could make the YouTube video maybe like a 20-minute segment of the podcast, where it's like I'm clipping the best moments and putting them into the storytelling segment. But if someone is subscribed to Creator Cookbook, they can get the entire 2-hour extended podcast, unedited, no filler, just the entire thing. Because YouTube cares about viewer time, retention, keeping people engaged. So a lot of times that doesn't bode well to like a 2-hour podcast from someone like me, where no one knows me for podcasting and I'm not big enough. So I was like, okay, well, if someone goes down the funnel enough to where they actually want to have the full thing, they can sign up for Creator Cookbook, pay whatever the monthly fee is. But if not, still I have the 20-minute YouTube video. So everything from YouTube to TikTok just becomes pure distribution. And you go down that funnel, and that's how I look about making money. If I end up making money from sponsorships and all that other stuff, great. But not having to rely on brands as your primary source of revenue is definitely where I think the creator economy goes. You see it with Mr. Beast, where he realized, hey, I'm actually so big that if I want to make more money, I need to launch my own products. KSI and Logan Paul, like they're at a larger scale of doing this, but every creator can do this at a small scale. I mean, even if, like, I saw a guy the other day who does, like, he makes money like creating his own paid group around wholesaling homes. And it's like every niche of content or every niche that like someone can make money in, there is a way to sell that educational system. And the transaction, when people are like, oh, I don't think anyone would pay for this. If you market it in a way that's like, hey, my whole goal is to provide value to you in a way that is going to help you along your journey, a lot of people will be like, yeah, I'll part with that $40 if it helps me get $100, $500, $1,000 in value. And a lot of times for people who aren't like us, it's very difficult to like open your mindset up to the point of like, wow, I don't want to be a salesperson, but everything is selling. Whether you're going on a job interview, whether you're trying to get into university, you're always selling yourself. The question is, how much are you selling yourself for? Is it 100K a year, 60K a year, or your own business where it could be 100K months, like $1 million months? Who knows how large you can grow your own things, and like how we are, where we have a new business idea like every week. Like every other day, I probably have a new business idea. Like I was in church on Sunday, and Easter's coming up. So it was Palm Sunday, and we were reading something in Psalms, and I was like, why isn't there like more Christian apparel merch brands like that are just solely focused on like providing like very nice high quality apparel, but like representing Jesus Christ? And then I like go on Namecheap and I find like the domain, and I'm like, what if I just call it like Psalm Day, like almost like someday, but Psalm Day. And I was like, wow, this domain's open. So now I like bought the domain. I don't know when I'll launch that thing, but at some point it'll happen, just because we're idea people. And now that AI exists, I'm like, dude, I could launch a new startup every 3 months, go super hard on that sprint to build up the initial traction and following and get it to recurring revenue. And if it doesn't, I just shelve it and go on to the next thing. But you look up in 10 years time, and the compounding interest of building things you really enjoy could result in like you retiring early or hiring operators to run these businesses for you, while then you're on the other side of the AI mountain. Now you can't be replaced. Now you can't be fired. Now you can't be let go. And you're making 50, 100, 200K a month from things that you actually own. And that's where I think the real value add is long-term. It isn't, how do I just increase my salary until I retire? It's how do I increase my equity in things that I own until I get to a point where I no longer have to spend my time building those things unless I truly want to.
Completely. A lot of people don't start a business because they think that there's not enough customers to sell to, but that's all relative to what is the value that you're providing, right? Some of my most profitable clients on YouTube with our agency have been people that have like under 5,000 subscribers.
Wow.
They make literally hundreds of thousands of dollars per month because they sell something incredibly specific that's really high ticket. So if anything, a lot of times we'll deal with clients and what they think is a con is really a strength, because if no one else is there servicing this specific need that you know exists, you can make a ton of money off not a lot of clients. And as someone who's had businesses that have a lot of clients and some that don't but are higher ticket, I can tell you the latter is definitely where you want to be. So it's not necessarily a con. In fact, it can be a pro. But I love that you brought up the whole piece of like, you're literally starting businesses all the time. I'm doing the exact same thing. I have 4 dev teams simultaneously building different apps for me as we speak. And the thing is, if you're listening to this and you've been someone who's been on the sidelines for a long period of time, you can still beat Bryce and I if you know the problem more, right? So a lot of times people will be like, what's the point in doing this? Like Ben or Bryce are going to take all my ideas. What's the point? We will take your ideas. Yes. But you can beat us if you know it better. And so that's really what I think it's going to come down to, is that over the next 5-6 months, there's going to be a gold rush of people solving every problem. But the real winners who dominate that problem and build the long-term business off of it are going to be the people that know it the best. And so if that is you, Bryce and I might beat you to the punch. We might get the idea out first, but if you don't start now, you'll never get the opportunity when you actually could come and beat us. I really believe that.
You know where a lot of people struggle too is thinking that there's like only a limited amount of money that people can spend on things. I'm like, and I used to have this mindset, and it probably, I would say it stunted my growth as not only a creator, but as like just a purely like an entrepreneur, thinking that, oh, wow, my price is too high, or, oh my goodness, there's no way anyone would pay for this because there's another guy who's 10 times larger than me. I'm not the only person doing a version of Creator Cookbook. Am I the only person that's marketed it in the way that I'm trying to market it? Yes. But I mean, Colin and Samir are huge. Their business is probably like a direct like a direct competitor or like very similar to mine, but they're like 100 times bigger and they have more credibility. They're more accepted. YouTube's going to push their content to more people, but that doesn't mean it still can't make me enough money to like build a successful enough business to only do Creator Cookbook full time, or to like help parlay that into my next idea. So I think that the biggest thing, and I've seen a lot of people who reach out to me and they say, oh, I want to make content. Don't worry about what the bigger guy is doing, right?
It's not relevant.
Like they started out small too. You just have to worry about like, how can I just get from 0 to 1? How do I get that first sale? How do I get that first 100 people to respond or reply on my video? Because that's going to be the information you need to keep iterating and taking it to the next level. And I think a lot of people have struggled with understanding that if you really want to be successful at something, you cannot worry about what competitors are doing, because there's always somebody more successful. Unless you're like Elon or Jeff Bezos, where at that point you probably don't have much to worry about. There's always a guy who makes more money doing the thing you are currently doing.
Always. And I also don't think that has to weigh too much in your decision making, because the reason why Colin and Samir can make the money that they make is also another reason why they can't make the money that you will make, right? Because the people that will want to come and buy from you, they wouldn't want to buy from Colin and Samir. And that's the entire point. A lot of times people will come and look at a market and they're like, oh, it's already saturated. And I'm like, no, I guarantee you there's a little pocket over here that we could fill, have a really nice, comfortable business here, and be happy with that, and make it fairly automated through social media, through AI, all that stuff. And I think that's a really good point that we've mentioned a few times, is get a small win, get something on the board, because it can facilitate other ideas. And so whatever idea you have, follow it with passion, because a lot of the problems and headaches that used to exist in businesses, because I used to always get this for like, Ben, you're going to be running too many businesses, like you won't physically be able to do this. And I was like, no, there'll be a tool for that. There'll be a tool for that. There'll be a tool for that. And that's happened, right? Like now almost all of the major headaches that existed to grow a massive business no longer exist. Like the next billion-dollar companies will be teams of 5 or 10 tops. And that can be you, but it can't be you until you get your first like K business, right? And that doesn't happen until you ship something. So I love
100%.
that. And you literally had an idea. So walk me through the process of Creator Cookbook. How long did you have the idea until you built it?
So the first time I actually thought of Creator Cookbook as an idea it was about 7 months ago. Pat, I think I came across like a starter story video. And it had nothing to do with content creation. It was just entrepreneurship. And at the time, I was in this like really bad rut with YouTube and Twitch. Like my main YouTube channel is pretty much falling off a cliff because I don't know who I'm making content for anymore. And it's like, I'm not passionate about gaming content anymore. I do it because it makes money. And I think that the world of Web3 is where it will go. And I'm passionate about Web3. And I know gaming well. But I listened to it and I was like, man, I'm really struggling as a creator to figure out like what I want to do if I did not have to make gaming content. And for the longest time, that was just on my mind. If I'm not making gaming content, like, what am I doing? And I got to the point where I watched that starter story video and I was like, this guy just makes $1 million a year making case studies about businesses.
People making money.
About people making money. I was like, couldn't I just do this about other content creators that make money and like just niche down? And 6 months ago is when I had the idea. I didn't really capitalize on it until like probably the last like month or so. And that's because I just had that itch where I was like, all right, I'm turning 30 at the end of the month. If I don't go after this, like, I don't know what life is going to look like with all this AI shit happening. I'm just going to go as hard as I can and really go at this as in the best way possible. And day one was just like, okay, I did a couple interviews. I got a couple interviews under my belt and I was like, all right, I've at least got off the ground. But I knew for me to continue doing better outreach, I needed something more than just a long copy and paste that I was like sending to creators. And I was like, bro, we need a landing page. I can't wait for somebody to do it. Let me see what the hell I can do. I see there's this lovable site and I spent like, it was a Friday for like 3 or 4 hours, just like adding every little individual piece and going down the rabbit hole. And once I realized I had that eureka moment, it was like, bro, I can rebuild Starter Story in my own image for Creator Cookbook and really hone in on this idea in a way that makes this a multi-million-dollar business. It was like off to the races. And that's like kind of been where my mind has been ever since. But it was really just you get to a point where it's like, if I don't do this, what happens to me in 5 years? What happens to me in 10 years? And I never wanted to get in a place where I'm like, oh, wow, I'll look back and regret not building something or not taking a risk or not falling flat on my face. And even if Creator Cookbook fails and something else doesn't work, I'll work on hundreds of ideas now because of like the skills I've gained in the last 2 weeks. But it was really just almost out of a place of like I'm not in a fight or flight mode. Like I'm good. I'm in a good spot financially. But thinking about like my goal is to get married in the next couple of years, have kids. I was like, as a solo guy with a girlfriend, this life works. But like, if I really want to have kids and like allow those kids to live like a fully healthy life, nice environment, nice neighborhood, I'm like, yeah, 50 to 100K a month might have to be the minimum just because of where the world is going and inflation. And I need to buy as much Bitcoin as I want to. Like, I think about that too. I'm like, the future is crypto. It's not
Completely.
Ks, it's not index funds, it's owning Bitcoin, and that being the fulcrum of like your investment, your wealth, your retirement is
All
like
of it.
a fight and flight and getting to Bitcoin. So there was a lot of things just in my head that led me to, we are going to make this fucking SaaS work one way or another. And if it doesn't work, I'll have the best learnings ever to create the next thing. But either way, I'm going to go super hard at this.
What other choice do you have? Realistically, you either stay stagnant and you let the world come at you and you have no choice over it, or you create your situation. And with crypto, I could not agree more. I've tried, I no longer even really try to have the conversation with people because I'll just let the world show them. But like everything is fundamentally going to change. And one point that I always say is, like, I like Apple products and whatnot, but they won the last major push, which was smartphones reaching to a point of the user experience
100%.
that we kind of know today. Won that. That's like their whole business would not exist if they didn't win that. Like realistically, they would not be this juggernaut that we know.
Nope.
I wouldn't be using this laptop. I wouldn't have these headphones. Like,
because they didn't even win the
that,
laptop game at first. They were losing that.
exactly. The only reason they won is because so many people had iPhones that they're like, oh, well, it works better with my iPhone.
Yeah.
Like everything comes back to the ecosystem. Well, there is a new shift happening like that within crypto. And everyone who's looking at these things like just tickers on a stock board that goes up and down, I think they're a little ignorant to what's going on. And yeah, I think Bitcoin's going to play such a major role. And it's so funny to me when people look at this and they're like, "Oh, money, it's not real." They'll say Bitcoin's not real. Money's not real, man. What do you mean,
man? So there was this really cool YouTube video called it was like how money's made or something. And there's this really cool guy named Chris Johnson who's like Bitcoin bullish. I think he said he has like $18 million worth of Bitcoin he's been buying since like 2017, 2018. And the whole video goes through how money is created from like the Fed in the banking system and then printing it out of thin air and then going through the same process over and over again. That scared me. And when I realized that, I was like, bro, you can't just save the way you thought you were saving or invest the way you thought you were investing. Yes, keep some cash on hand, but like your strategy has to be like, get one full Bitcoin. Then after that, go for two. And then like, once you get as much as you can, so that way 30, 40, 50 years from now, you're like, regardless of what happens with the world, Bitcoin is going to be a retirement fund for a lot of people. And I do think there's only a matter of time before it's $1 million a coin with the amount of inflation.
1000%.
Like you were saying, how can, especially as a man, you live in this world knowing that there is so many things happening, but you are not curious enough to go out and get to the root of it, get to the root of why businesses are failing, like why brick and mortar businesses are failing at a massive rate. Get to the root of why developer jobs are blowing up like combustion. Get to the root of why creators are not making the money they used to make doing the same exact thing. And it's like, there's so many global things happening that if you miss all of these things because you aren't curious or intrigued, you're going to look up in 10 years and be like, yo,
What the hell happened?
I'm poor. I'm not middle class anymore. I'm poor. Eggs are $20 a carton. When did that happen? But $20 to us might not look like $20 because of where we are. And it's like all these things are going to play a pivotal role in the future. And I'd rather be ahead of the future than behind the future. Because behind is like the guy who was stuck using a payphone or selling payphones when the beeper and the telephone were coming out.
Completely. If you are listening to this, watching this, what I really would push anyone to do is to go beyond this, because like even this podcast, like we've kept it very surface, because if you go too deep into any one of those topics, you're definitely going to lose people. But if you want to be on the right side of history, you need to go dig deeper. And if you dig deeper into the financial system, like Bryce just said, and then from that, you look into how crypto can solve a lot of the fundamental flaws, it's impossible not to become absurdly bullish and literally look at it and be like, this is inevitably going up. Almost every major crypto that's not going to go to zero is going to be worth so much money over the next 12 to 24 months. It's insane. Like people are going to look back at these prices and be like, this is crazy. I can't believe I was worrying about if it was 70 or 80 cents when now it's worth $50 a coin. That will happen. And if you look at, let's look at Apple's for a fun little experiment today. So like Apple's market cap is,
I can't wait till they start buying Bitcoin. They're gonna make us all even richer.
all of them are going to have to. So their market cap is $3.8 trillion. Okay. Now the entire market cap for all of crypto is 2.69. How does that
Wow.
make any sense that Apple is worth more than every major crypto combined? That makes no sense.
And Apple's on the fiat scale. So it's like
Yes.
there is, and of course everyone uses these products, but I even go back to stocks. I'm like, when we look, what makes a stock actually worth
It's fake
anything?
too.
And
Yes.
it's like, oh, well, I own stock in Apple. Okay, well, you can buy it or sell it, but why does somebody else want to buy it or sell it if it's not yielding you anything, right? If you don't even get to make the decisions, right?
Yes. Thank you.
Like, someone else makes the decisions for you. Same thing with your job. Somebody else is making the decision what happens with your life, what happens with your money, what happens with everything. No one makes the decisions on Bitcoin.
Man, stocks are meme coins. And so that's why I always have this argument with people who are a little more traditional in my family, where they're like, oh, like buy stocks, buy stocks. It's like, there's no difference between the stock and this meme coin. We've just disguised it under all of this fancy language and speak to tell you that there's value behind this, blah, 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 blah. Look at GameStop when they did that short squeeze. Like, all of this is bullshit. It's not real. And so I'd rather be on the bullshit where I think there's way higher potential. And the thing that I loved about what you said is that if it's a tokenized environment, like you actually have some sort of say in how things are conducted a little bit more, right? Than if you just hold a stock and you have like a voting share. Like, what the hell does that really mean? Whereas like, I think in the world where everything gets tokenized, things change a lot more. And what I love about like what I think is going to happen is essentially when you assign yourself to a specific project, you kind of end up working for them because everybody has the access to be a creator, right? And that kind of happens in a roundabout way with Apple, but you don't really get to benefit the same way that Apple does when their share goes up, right? Because you only hold one, and it's just not built in the same way where like value gets distributed really well.
100%.
But when you're like, let's say I'm a massive believer in Cardano, right? Like if I go and advocate for Cardano's use case and eventually grows, like I benefit from all of the work that I've done, all of the stuff that I've accumulated. And that's true with stocks, but not in the same way that's possible with smart contracts and crypto. And so I just think it's inevitable that even the stocks that we look at today, I think they're going to be tokenized in the very near future too. So
I think someone was talking about that. One of the big hedge fund managers was talking about trying to tokenize stocks very soon.
It's inevitable, in my opinion. And I honestly, it's so funny because we've been getting roasted in the crypto community for years. We've been called crypto bros, all this crap. And everyone's going to have to be like, oh shit. Because
we're all crypto bros.
Yes, exactly. It's because it's going to be pitched as the solution to all of our problems. You look at the administration right now, they're going to come through and once they've accumulated enough and they've chilled things down with the tariffs, and they're going to start slowly incorporating blockchain technology into a lot of different things that they do within the government because they're trying to cut costs. And if you look at the infrastructure that the traditional banking system is built on, it's just so expensive, slow, clunky. It's insane. And it can be done with so much more decentralization, more security, and at a fraction of the price with way faster speeds with a lot of technology that already exists. So what you're currently worried about being fake today will soon be what we're all dealing with tomorrow. It's insane. It's also hard to find people that are having these conversations. That's why I was really excited to talk to you.
You know what's also super interesting, and I'm glad we're on the same page. I feel like I'm talking to like a new best friend at this point.
Likewise,
a lot of the crypto industry is stupid because a lot of these guys made so much money off of meme coins or like they made a little bit of money and they fail to realize that crypto is the only safe haven right now. Like if you wanted to get a job in crypto as a developer or in marketing, like, and you're not working in like the Web3 gaming sector, which is like deplorable, like crypto is actually a very good safe haven for finding jobs.
Yes.
Because smart contracts are something that like AI has not figured out, and it never, well, I'm not going to say never, but for a while it won't, because there's so much auditing that takes place. And right now AI struggles making sure things are audited correctly. But additionally, a lot of these guys don't want to work. They don't want to work a job. They don't want to build anything. They just want to like participate on upside. Whereas it's like the 1% will make money off the upside, but like the other 99, I'm like, you guys are at the edge of technology where in the future AI and blockchain will interact and all these cool things will be happening. And you aren't trying to build anything or create anything or figure out what this world looks like. It's like, you are missing out on potentially hundreds of millions of dollars in opportunities because all you care about is like which meme coin went up on Pump Fund.
Yeah, you either got to be, to survive, how I think it's going is you either have to be a builder or you have to be a right place to be an employee. And I think the only two places that are right to be an employee is if you have some sort of specialized knowledge in the development of AI and AI businesses or blockchain technology. Like for one example, I've talked about Cardano because I'm such a massive Cardano bull. They have a fundamental problem right now where there's a lack of developers that understand how Cardano is built because they built like I'm gonna go down a little bit Cardano rabbit hole because
Yeah,
there's
give me
been
the. I'm not deep on Cardano, so this is gonna be helpful to me.
everyone's about to be deep on Cardano. I'm telling you with like unequivocally. So the difference between say Ethereum and Cardano is that Ethereum was first to market, right? Because they wanted to move fast, break things, but build upon the internet. So how things were already built. But the
Yeah,
internet was not a perfect product. There's like we talked about earlier, there are so many things that are fundamentally wrong with the internet that limit how we can conduct its use, right? So there's so many things that we stopped asking, why can't we do it like this? Because you just can't,
yeah,
right? Cardano basically went to like grassroots and was like, what would languages look like to build on things with where this much potential is here? And so they built whole new structures for how to build and conduct software on their platform. And so with Ethereum, they'll get a lot of people there. They'll lead the push because it's a known and trusted name. It's been around for a long enough time. It's expensive enough for people to think it's valuable. But eventually, after a few years of people actually conducting businesses on there, when it's slow, clunky, and not reliable, like in terms of speed, like they're going to look at it and be like, okay, what are other options? Wait, Cardano can do all of this. It's a fraction of the cost and more
yeah.
decentralized. Like it's all going to come there, man. And so it's going to blow up like insane. And if you go look at the ecosystem right now, this is why I think that if you're listening to this, you're a developer or even a marketer, like they're so small in terms of where they will be in a year from now. Like the coins that are on there,
Yeah.
what I want you to do is if you're looking to invest or you're looking to learn, go look at when Ethereum really became a little bit more mainstream and then go look at the trickle down value from all the things that were built on that technology. We're talking about many of the leading
Huge.
cryptos are simply layer twos of Ethereum. That same fundamental shift hasn't happened yet on Cardano. Like there's not even many projects. So if you want another, like you're more interested in Web3, if you don't want to build applications like Bryce and I are talking about, go build financial businesses in the Cardano ecosystem. There is such a massive opportunity. And I think there's also a huge opportunity because like you and I should start a friggin' startup in this space, man, because
We
one
have
of
to. We're
one
gonna
of the
have to
biggest
jam
things,
out.
100%, because one of the biggest things, man, is that Cardano's problem has been they don't have people like you and I working for them, so it's ugly. Their messaging doesn't include storytelling. They haven't appealed to anyone besides nerds
Yeah.
like myself that have been in there and been like, holy crap, this is so obvious. They're now starting to, because they have a treasury of so much money, like billions of dollars, and now their founder Charles Hoskinson is basically like, we're going to turn on the cool radar and start
Mm.
getting the people in there. So there's going to be a lot of money going around if you're a marketer or a builder to build within this ecosystem. And if you dedicate your time right now, it'll be like being a developer 10, like 7, 8 years ago when it was the gold rush there, because there's so few people that know this shit.
That's interesting. I mean, me being a crypto native and not knowing much about Cardano should say all it has to say about the fact that like they've just been kind of like flying under the radar. But I agree with you. I think that I personally think ETH is like a dead chain at this point. Like I think people are using it because the L2s, but I have this theory that like companies like Coinbase will realize like, hey, there's no point in being on ETH. And they'll relaunch Base as an L1 and basically migrate everyone over. Because
That
if
can happen
Base
too.
launches an L1, it probably would outperform ETH right now, to be honest.
Yeah, there's so many things that the layer twos are cannibalizing Ethereum so much. It's insane. But I think ETH will still have a really good day. I think it will still even perform well as an asset for over the next 12 to 24 months. But if
Yeah.
zooming out, I don't think they have a chance because of all the things that went into it. And the really cool story for why I know Cardano will blow up is because their founder also is a really good story. He was a co-founder of Ethereum, and they had a fundamental falling out over their approach to building this next wave of technology. Ethereum was let's incorporate things that already exist so we can get developers really quick and be first to market. So they did that and it worked to a degree,
Yeah.
right? Charles was like, this is stupid because all we're doing is bringing on existing problems to a new place where we're still going to have those problems. So he said, I think it'd be smarter to build from the ground up for this specific use case. They spent like a decade building this. They went the rigorous peer-reviewed route of everything that was built was peer-reviewed and done by academic institutions.
Yeah.
Now they're about to be ready to go. And basically, we'll see who had the better approach. I don't know. I personally think Charles, but
It's going to be an arms race.
Seriously, it will. And so the fact that if you guys have never heard of Cardano, go over to Charles Hoskinson's YouTube channel. He's the founder of Cardano and former co-founder of Ethereum who left to then start this, and go watch his live streams. Like this guy has been live streaming so consistently for like years, and he pulls like fairly decent views on stuff that makes no sense. Like you're a YouTube guy too.
Yeah.
If you go over to Charles's channel, you'll be like, how is he even getting this many views? Imagine when he
Wow,
starts.
he's live like every day, like
Yes, dude. And so what's going to happen is he's going to become a hero because people are going to finally educate themselves on what he's been doing for the last decade and why he's been doing it.
yeah.
And if he works with a YouTube strategist, like let's say you or I, we could blow up his channel within weeks because if he just made some small packaging tweaks, people would be like, oh my God, this guy's a freaking genius. It's what I think the catalyst for this will be. I've been saying this for a while. I think he's going to go on Joe Rogan. I think he's going to explain why Cardano exists and why Web3 is here and why Cardano should be the catalyst for that in a way that the average person can understand. And then I think he's going to become Elon, like a famous entrepreneur right off of that, and then the ecosystem will go. That's my prediction. We'll see if it pays out.
That's huge. I mean, especially with the way I think that we've seen Solana's rise over after the fall of FTX. I really think genuinely the floor is open for any company or any organization after Bitcoin to come in and like take market share. Because no one's done it. Like everyone knows Bitcoin is just a store of value. It's not a place of consistent everyday commerce. Who's going to be the first to get it right? I think Solana had an edge, and then like people got to the point where they realized like, okay, this meme coin shit is just like another Ponzi. So it's like there's a world where Cardano could come in and steal the market share that currently exists.
Man, I'm telling you, they're going to, because they're building a way to do DeFi with Bitcoin. Like they're building that technology. I'm sure I just bastardized how they would explain it.
Yeah.
But in the next, I think it's 3 to 6 months, they're rolling out a way to basically make Bitcoin have a lot more utility, and they can do things with their Bitcoin without realizing that Cardano is facilitating the transactions. Like to the end user, it just looks like they're doing Bitcoin to Bitcoin transactions when really it's being facilitated through Cardano. So like people it's the best of both worlds. Cardano improves all of the flaws that Bitcoin has, and the Bitcoin maximalists don't ever even really need to know that that's taking place.
Yeah. Damn. There's still so much I gotta learn, man. See, that's the thing. That's why you have to always be open-minded and open to learning everything, because you'll miss out on so many opportunities when you are like this closed off as to what the world actually has.
Also, if you have conviction in something, always you should have followed it. But with how fast things move right now, and I got this lesson because I learned about Bitcoin when I was in grade 10. So in terms of the global world, I learned about it. I was one of like the first hundreds of thousands of people to learn about this.
That's incredible.
And I debated buying some. I literally had like $10 or so for Subway. And I was like, it'd be funny. Like I can go, maybe we should buy some of this, because I learned about it in business class. And instead I went and got my sweet chicken teriyaki sandwich. And that was the most expensive sandwich I've ever eaten in my life.
You'd probably be a billionaire right now.
Serious. Well, I would have, see, but here's why. Like everything was working out for me, because had I bought it, I definitely would have sold it at about $1,000 a coin and probably become incredibly resentful towards the whole crypto space.
Yeah.
But instead, what it did was made me so hungry to learn that I became obsessed with Ethereum. I've been involved. This will be my third bull run that I've been involved in. And I've just seen that this is a future thing that will happen. And that probably doesn't happen if I had bought Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So I think and also I won in NFTs too. Like I did fairly well in that space when that thing went crazy. I think those will also come back. But it's just because I believed in something. And so if you're a recurring theme we've mentioned throughout this a lot is that if you have a unique advantage, don't wait for someone else to validate that it's an advantage.
100%.
Because if you do that, it's gone, right? Like when I bought an NFT for $12,000 NFT bull run, and my family looked at me like I was the biggest idiot on the planet. Like they were like, you are so stupid. You just lit money on fire. There was like, I was getting roasted everywhere. But I knew what they didn't understand. I understood how IP and brands develop and how a business can be built off of that and what makes things cool, because I study people and marketing every single day. Yeah. That same NFT has since gone up like 40x in value, right? So huge. Yes. And they were like, oh, that was so stupid. It's like, if you know something and you wait for other people to tell you you're right, you'll be wrong because it will have already happened.
Exactly. You'll miss the moment.
Yes. It's insane.
You hit it right on the head, because there's been tons of times, especially in the Web3 space, where you'll have like intuition about something, and someone's like, no, that can't happen. It's like, well, I mean, if your downside isn't that big anyway, I think always take the risk. It's a lot better than trying to buy something after it's already gone up or after you've missed the moment. It's better to be early and be wrong than to be late and wrong, and it's way more expensive that way.
And if you can zoom out and have the time horizons to play longer games, you almost can't lose if you've done a bit of research, right? Because when my parents were like, oh, why are you buying this? It's so stupid. I said, I can sit on this for years and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And so if you can play those kind of games, even if it takes a while for the market and the world to catch up, if you're very confident that that's going to happen, then you should still make the move. But for right now, you said that, like, what are your biggest convictions that you could drop some sauce for some people? Like, what are your predictions?
Man, well, My first one is I think Bitcoin is $1 million a coin within the next 5 years. So
I think it's a safe bet.
any like outside of like necessities, living and things of that sort, any
Put it
additional
there.
like income and revenue, I'm just throwing it into Bitcoin and I'm like, I'll see you later.
Can you explain why you think that's going to happen?
I think that where the financial world is, we are starting to realize that people are starting to become smarter into the idea that printing money isn't a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
And also the amount of businesses that are just exiting USD to just buy Bitcoin because they see it as a store of value. And they're only being 21 million Bitcoin. I do believe that over time, you have more Fortune 500 companies come in and say, hey, we're going to buy $5 million worth of Bitcoin, 10 million here. How long before someone says we're buying $1 billion in Bitcoin? We're buying it
Easily.
like how long before Amazon's like, you know what? We think this Bitcoin thing's kind of cool. We're going to buy $1 billion worth of it. And right now, outside of like a couple of corporations, Bitcoin has just been all retail buyers, right? And a couple of countries that like are so small that like it really doesn't matter. But I think that over time we get to a point where there is truly just a lack of Bitcoin. And when you think about probably like 5 million Bitcoin is lost forever just because of the early adopters like losing their seed phrases. The
Mm-hmm.
numbers are just, it's in the favor of anyone who's holding Bitcoin that you are at an ultimate advantage against USDC. And I think that over the course of 5-10 year period, there's not going to be another investment that outperforms it unless you've gotten like some sort of AI seed round or something that was like so early that they just completely revolutionized some piece of technology. I just think that like it's the safest bet if you're looking for a place to store your money. But beyond that, I just think that AI led businesses and the solopreneur founder is the most dangerous and lethal person on the planet right now. I think you're going to look at in the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of solopreneur founders are going to make tens of millions of dollars. They're going to take that money and then they'll
Where are they going to
become the
put it?
next real estate moguls or boring business owners, or like they'll go and get into a lot of these traditional worlds where like AI can't be like AI can't really beat them out. And then they'll just keep building these little pop shop businesses on the side. I mean, like even when I think of my own, I would say exit with Creator Cookbook, I don't see it as ever being like a selling point. I kind of see it as a we get to a point where we have so much distribution, we have so many fans, we have such a large community that what I want to do is go launch my own venture fund, like called Cookbook VC. And I want to
Cool.
go out and I want to fund cool creator led businesses. Like going out and being like, I want to cut the check for the seed round of Mr. Beast festivals. But
Mm.
like maybe 10 years down the road is for the next Mr. Beast or the next Kai Cenat or I Show Speed. Like I want to be investing in those rounds because I think the true moat is community and creator distribution and having that moat of people follow me because they like me and they like what I've built. And that's something AI will never replace and those businesses will always perform. So 5 years down the road, I want to be launching a venture fund that does that. We only invest in creator-led businesses with creators that have some level of distribution or understand how to get that level of distribution. And I think that's like the pie in the sky of where Creator Cookbook goes. But you have to continue skilling up and leveling up throughout that entire process. I'll probably start and fail and succeed at like 10 or 20, 30, 50 businesses over the next 5 years. But throughout the entire process, I'll get smarter and I'll make more recurring revenue than I ever have in my life. And I think that's like what excites me about where the world is. Everything is democratized now. Coding, marketing, learning. It's the speed of light. You don't need college. You don't need some sort of secondary education. You just get on YouTube, get on TikTok, get on Twitter, and learn from people who have done it. You don't even need a mentor. The mentor is
Mm-hmm.
literally the internet. People used to say,
Yes.
go out and find a mentor and do whatever they need you to do and add value and they'll give you value back. It's like, brother, everyone can chat with everyone on the internet. Your
Mm.
mentor is your phone. You just get on it and figure it out. And the people who just are willing to sit there and figure it out longer than the people who are like, my God, I can't do this. I'm going to go back to what's easy. You're going to outperform everybody.
Yeah, the world's getting split into two. It's people that are seeing the opportunity and running with it, and those that are worrying about it and sitting on the sidelines, and they're going to be thrown whatever they're thrown. But I think in the crypto front, couldn't agree more. I think that Bitcoin is inevitably going to over $1 million if you just do simple supply and demand economics on it. Like once you talked a little bit about institutional money, but that's
Yeah.
only going to continue to come in the support as everything's uncertain. Bitcoin becomes more predictable, more safe, right? That changes how people view the risk profile associated with Bitcoin. With each major institution that buys it, it becomes less risky. This crazy thing is, think about how we have Like, if you really think about it as humans, it is so stupid that we have nuclear bombs. Like, how dumb is that? But
Right.
why did we create them? Because someone created them, right? So the same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin, right? Once one major power buys Bitcoin out of a necessity, they'll all have to start
They have
buying
to.
more and more and more
Domino
Bitcoin.
effect.
Yes, out of necessity. Like the exact same reason why each one wants a nuke. It's going to be the exact same premise. If that becomes like the default value of the world, then you have to hold the most of it if you want to hold the most amount of power. And so I don't like that that's the situation, but if you are an investor, it is ridiculous for you to not be involved in crypto. At the very least, Bitcoin, if your risk profile is not very high. But that's it, man. And then the point that you mentioned about creators and builders, one thing before I let you go, I want to do a little
Yeah.
experiment of, I think there needs to be a massive amount of intervention within the creator space. I think your business is going to basically do that, but creators need to stop viewing themselves as simply one thing of, oh, I make media. They need to realize that they're an entrepreneur that uses media to grow their business. And so that fundamental mindset shift needs to take place. So let's run through an example of how, like, let's say a mom creator comes and joins your platform. And how would you consult her to stop just being like a mommy creator or whatever, mommy blogger, whatever, to turning that into a business?
Oh, so I mean, the first thing I would try to figure out is like, okay, you're a mom creator. If your business is all around like you raising your kids and building the lifestyle of like being like the mom and like building this happy family, what businesses can we build around you that one will help you grow and help you grow your income, even if you're not getting millions and millions of views? And
Mm.
of course, at the very root, I'm always going to say like paid community, but I think that especially for moms, some of the biggest things that you can do is provide like consulting services to other moms outside of just like, hey, you join my group and like I'll send you like, I don't know, I send you like cookbook recipes. But like a lot of young moms just struggle being moms. A lot
Mm.
of older moms struggle, or a lot of like women who are like moving into motherhood probably struggle trying to figure out, how do you keep a happy home? How do you balance a family? How do you also keep your husband happy? Like, how do you balance all these pressures and expectations of, you might have to work, then come home and put food on the table? How can you find little life hacks and things that make your life easier? So I would really focus on like, can we start products around this? Like, can we start products that help with motherly meal prepping of like meals and putting things together, whether it's like just anywhere from like enhanced Tupperware containers where it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and help with the organizational process of like keeping your kids in order, keeping them in line, and like keeping them on a set schedule. Because I think about my sister. So my sister, she works in the foster care system. She has her own kid of her own, and she's adopted too. But sometimes they'll also give her other temporaries. And one of
Okay.
the things she's told me is like running a ship that is tight scheduled, where it's like the kids are always having something that they're doing. That doesn't mean you have to be always entertaining them, but they have a rigid schedule of like what they're doing every day, and they know it. And that allows them to be able to get into a flow and understand at this time this happens. And they're not going to ask a ton of questions. Oh, why do I have to go to sleep at this time? It's because like this is the time we go to bed so we can wake up early to be able to do the things the next day. So I would really focus on one, how do we find products that she could release or products that she could build that help moms with the everyday tasks of what they are doing? Because a lot of what motherly lifestyle content is related to is like, help, come watch me prepare breakfast for my three kids, or prepare lunch for my three kids as they go to school. First thing I do is I chop up 8 bananas and I'll make their ground turkey and their whatever you're cooking. So I think that there is like a very big hack in the world of how do you provide life hacks to parents and then also own the products that are the life hacks. And those will go very viral. I think consulting is another big piece, and finding ways to bring these mom communities together to do things. Like a lot of moms don't have friends.
No,
Like you have your friends in college, right? But a lot of women, when they get pregnant, start having kids, like if you don't have a really core friendship or friend group, it's like,
it's
it's
isolating.
even hard for them to relate. Like,
Yeah.
okay, my friend that I'm 30, maybe like, let's say a mother's 30. She had her first kid. She's in motherhood now. Her friend in college is also 30, but guess what? She's still going out and going to day parties every single week. It's like,
So
we
different.
can't relate in some ways. Maybe if you need a
No.
night out, you can, but like, how do you just get around a circle of other moms that are going through stuff? Like, how do you create that? I think there's a world where you could create a mommy app where like you legitimately are putting moms in the same rooms, whether it's a dinner, whether it's a wine night, whether it's a paint and sip, whatever it is, you're putting moms in the same rooms where they can just meet each other and like cohabitate and talk about their lives. Like, I think
Completely.
that community led businesses are so important, and finding ways to make them SaaS products. Yeah, like 100%. I could help a mom go out and create an ecosystem of like products that she could get to 10, 15, 20K recurring revenue if she's like
Doing it.
consistent with it, you know?
Completely. Yeah. And that what the experiment that you just did there is one that anybody could do regardless of niche. And so I wrote down some notes as you were talking where
Yeah.
if you were just to ask yourself the 7 layers of why someone comes to watch your video, eventually you're going to get to a place of like the example that you just gave, they want some sort of transformation to either manifest physically or to manifest emotionally internally. And there are products and services that match and fill both of those needs. And you mentioned multiple of them, right? If it's a physical transformation, it's one that you can see. And so just deliver that outcome and you're going to get compensated for it. But especially with understanding your audience of moms, the emotional element of it is equally, if not more important. And so I think you need to reframe of what is a business. And a lot of times people can only see like clear, obvious outcome products and services. Sometimes the outcome you can't see. And
Yeah.
sometimes the ones that people are willing to pay the most for is one that you can't see. And so I love the fact that you went right to basically an emotionally charged business
Yeah.
of creating that support system. I think a lot of massive businesses are going to be built in that sector. And one startup that we're currently actively building out, I was only attracted, not only, but majorly attracted to this idea because of
Mhm.
that exact thing. I think the only real moats that are
Oh, you
really
got to
going
give me
to
the
exist.
details now. I need some sneak peeks, a little something.
So it's an idea that is so good that if I say it out loud, somebody with more money is going to go
Fine,
beat me
fine.
to
I
the
won't say it.
punch.
Never mind. We'll save it for later.
So once I'm up and I have a bit of the network effect going, then I'll be talking about it very publicly. And I want to have you on. I'd also, when you have the time, I'd love to get you on here on a consistent basis because this is a lot of fun, man.
This is a vibe. I definitely would love to come on a consistent basis. I'm getting you on my podcast too, so we're gonna run this back soon.
100%, man. 100%. Well, if you had one last thing that you could say to anyone before I let you go here, like what would you leave someone listening to this with? Like what kind of homework would you give them if you had one opportunity to speak to them?
I would say my blueprint simply comes down to figuring out what you're passionate about, what you could feasibly make money from, what you think is evergreen and interesting enough that you can do for a very long time, and what's something you think that based on your current capacity, you have the time to capitalize on. If you can figure out what intersects between those four things, you have a business that's at least good enough to where you should take a couple of weeks and try to ship something. It might not work. It might not work the first couple of times, but the worst case scenario is it doesn't work and you try again. The best case scenario is it changes your life forever. You tell the boss to fuck off and you become the boss. And that is so much more worth your time than trying to stress out as to how you're going to edit your resume to try to get the new job or go get the useless certification to go get this job or take the next step in the next plunge in your career. And everyone's next step is going to be building and creating, whether you are outwardly as a content creator, whether you are working on a business where it's like they are having to take risks and market in a way that is a content creator. But don't be the guy who's left behind because you were too afraid to take the necessary step that's needed to get your life back on track or to the next level.
I love that, man. Incredibly well said. And it's about going from 0 to 1 because 1 through 100 can happen in days,
Yeah.
but it can't happen until you get 0 to 1. That's where everyone, like so many people come through my mind when I think about this that have talked about things they want to do. And it's that 0 to 1. It's the smallest step that has all of the fear because fear exists in anticipation. And if you just go do something and fail it, you realize that no one cares. And with how fast the world is moving, no one will even notice. The thing too is that I think I'm big on reducing layers of friction. And so I think a lot of times people are like, I need to go post it publicly that I'm building this thing or all this stuff. It's like, you don't need to do that. In fact, it's probably dumb to do that because if the people who follow you right now on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, wouldn't want to buy this product, why are you telling them about it anyways? Right? Because then it just sets you up for failure because you're going to be mad that they didn't support you. And why would they support you? Right? So instead, just go test, validate, and get things out there.
I totally agree with you. I think that we're moving into this space where testing, validating, and trying.
All of it.
All you got to do is try. Like if you just try, you were further along than like 99.9% of the world just by trying. That's the crazy
100%.
thing behind all this. And AI makes the trying as easy as like waking up, sitting at a computer and typing one prompt into a prompt generator.
And you're trying to help more and more people do that with Creator Cookbook. So where can people go sign up and see all these case studies?
So go to creatorcook.com and just sign up for the newsletter. We're working on something now where you're going to get access to one new free case study every single day. And of course, if you want the more exclusive ones with interviews involved, there's going to be a paid option, but we're going to be pushing out and cranking out one free case study on a new creator every single day. That's our goal. It's like a year-long thing we're looking to do. And I think it's going to help us with our content flow. But if you're a creator, if you're a business, if you're someone who's looking to learn more about marketing or start your own business, you need to learn how to create content. You need to learn how to build around it. And creatorcook.com is where you need to go to do that.
Amazing. So that'll be linked in the description of this, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Just go below. You'll see a link to that. Go over and subscribe to all Bryce is doing. Thanks so much, Bryce. Appreciate you, man. And we'll definitely talk soon.
Thank you again.
Peace.